We're going to go ahead and get started here. My name is Abby Pastorella. I am an educational consultant for Patton Harrisburg. My colleague Sharon Leonard is in the back there. We'll be facilitating if anybody needs anything. This is session 33, and it is my pleasure to introduce Ernie Orelli, Mike Milanovic, Jen Price, and Amanda DeSimone. I went through that really fast. I'm sorry, guys. And they will be discussing creating effective incentives at the secondary level, and they are from Lawrence County CTC. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to them.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone. I'm Mike Milanovic. I'm the principal, Lawrence County Career and Technical Center. We are a vocational school. However, we are a comprehensive vocational school, meaning our students starting in 10th grade give up their home district and they come to us permanently for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, where we provide both academics and vocational. We run a week-about schedule. The younger students or the less experienced, being 10th and half of the 11th grade, would spend one entire week in academics, while the advanced courses would spend that entire week in vocational, and then the next week they just switch. The benefit to this is our students on the vocational side actually work a full work day. We can do a lot of things in the community. They get a lot of hands-on because we don't have the interruption of busing 4 times a day. They wake up in the morning, they get on their bus, they come to our building. At 10 after 8, they're in their shop working all the way until 2:40 in the afternoon. So like I mentioned, we're allowed to do a lot of support for our sending districts. We have 8 sending districts. We have averaged about 400 students in grades 10, 11, and 12. And the purpose of our presentation today, before I hand it over to Mr. Orelli, is we are implementing strategies to get the high school kids on board. We've come to this for many years, Mr. Orelli for sure. Myself, this is my 3rd year here. It is a wonderful experience for everybody. The breakout sessions have all been great, but they are also steered towards the younger crowd. And quite frankly, vocational school, 10th, 11th, and 12th, stickers and lollipops don't cut it. So we have to hit them the same way we're going to hit you guys, and that's in their pocket and make them happy and get them excited about participating. But with that being said, we're going to get started. We'll try and cut it short, about 5 minutes at the end if there's any questions. We've worked pretty hard to try and incorporate as much as we could into the slide presentation. However, myself, Mr. Orelli, we're pretty easygoing. So this is for you. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to raise your hand, stop us, get clarification on anything you need. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, everybody. As you can see up here, basically what Mr. Milanovic said, there's a little bit about us, where we're located. There's a picture of our team. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring everybody with us because we are in the middle of Keystones, as I'm sure some of you are also. But like I said, we have roughly 430 students. So we have a team of 7 members right now, mixed between the academic and the vocational. So we built everything off of our 4 major expectations, and we tried to make those expectations so they were relevant for high school kids, and in our instance also relevant for vocational kids. So we tried to make it so it worked both ways. So be here, be ready, be respectful, and be safe is what we build everything off of. That's what all of our signage is. That's what all of our tickets are, and you'll see. And then one thing before I go, did everybody get either a Rich buck or a Milanovic buck when you walked in? Anybody not get one? Ladies, can you make sure they get them? Hold on to them till the end. We got some prizes for everybody, so for a couple people.
With that being said, yes, that is a picture of me. Yes, Mr. Orelli did take the opportunity to grab the worst picture of me.
I did. And we'll explain what we use those for as we're moving on, okay? Okay, so what we did when we rolled this out to our staff and when we rolled this out to our students, we tried to make it as simple as possible for our staff. We tried to give them the least amount of work as possible. And I'm sure some of you are using cool tools. We've built our cool tools around our 4 expectations. these are, and you'll be able to see them a little better as we're moving on, but these posters are hung everywhere. And each one for the corresponding locations has, what our expectations are for that spot in the building, whether it's the classroom, whether it's the shop, whether it's the cafeteria, the gym, assemblies, the restroom, and we tried to make it as uniformed as possible to make sure that they're hearing the same expectations over and over and over again. I would guess if you would ask all of our students, probably 95% would be able to recite the four expectations. It's on the announcements in the morning, it's on the announcements at the end of the day, and it's hung everywhere. So what we do to make sure that all students are getting the expectations is at the beginning of the school year, I produce lesson plans, email them out to the whole staff, and we go over each expectation for the first 9 days. Now, not the first day of school, because you know how crazy that can be. But once everybody's settled, the first 5 minutes, Mr. Milanovic will come over the loudspeaker and say, please review your email. Please look at your email, go over your cool tool for the day that Mr. Orelli sent, and the staff goes over the assigned cool tool for that day. So these ones are from day 1 and day 2, classroom and hallways. As you can see, they're broken down into the 4 expectations, just like everything else is as we move forward. Day 3 and 4, we go to cafeteria and restroom, so the whole school is getting them at the same time. We're not asking teachers to create their own lesson plan. We're not asking them to take 45 minutes out of their day. They're doing 5 minutes right at the beginning, going over the expectation, as we move forward. One thing that we're adding now, I'm sure that all of you have started to experience the Safe to Say, whether it's on your website, the Safe to Say they're reporting something. We're going to add this as another cool tool. We presented it to our students, and our staff did, because it is a school-wide thing. It's, we want them to feel safe. We want them to be able to, to report things that are happening. So that's why we added that this year.
The one part that Mr. Orelli hit on. Yes? So the question is, what's the dimensions of the posters in our hallway? Luckily, we are a vocational technical school that has commercial art. We can make them as big as we want. The ones that are currently in the hallway that we're showing in these pictures, they're like 2 foot by 4 foot. The ones we put in the cafeteria, we make 4 by 6. After this, we may hang one 8 by 12. Depends on if we buy a new machine.
The classroom ones are the ones that are in the classroom.
The classroom ones that are throughout the building and in all the classrooms, just regular runoff in color. One of the things that Mr. Orelli hit on that needs a little more emphasis is we do try to make this as easy as possible for the staff. I was a teacher for 14 years. I taught emotional behavioral disorders, and I know the rule. You guys don't want something else to do. I didn't want something else to do. But the way we roll it out is very team-driven. It is very team-driven. We spoon-feed everything because, 1, we wanted it to be uniform. 2, we didn't want to create more work. So when he talks about we do the presentation, I get on the announcements and I say at this time, teachers, please review cool tool number 1. I know that everyone in the building, both staff and student, are being exposed to the same information at the same time, and we're getting 100% coverage without having to do it multiple times. Plus, we're directing exactly what information we want to be given to them. So it's a win-win for everybody. We'll talk a little bit more as we move into the other slides about how the other expectations are uniformed across the building.
Okay. So we touched on Safe to Say a little bit, and this is this is what the teacher would get. They would review this for the 5 minutes of that day, and trying to move through this pretty fast because what we're here for is to talk about what we've done incentive-wise. Because like Mr. Milanovic said, they don't want stickers, they don't want lollipops, they don't want a song. They don't, we had to try to make it so they would. How can we get them to buy in? So here's how we did it. Our school, since it's a comprehensive vocational school. We don't have sports teams, so the one thing that we did was Letterman jackets, okay? And I'll get to that in a little bit. Coffee, donut social, ice cream social. We'll talk about our Principals 200 Club. Our main focus is our quarterly field trips and then our end of the year picnic that we'll discuss here briefly. Oh, and real quick, sorry about that. If you look up here and see these pictures, we basically took over a part of the hallway that nobody was using, and that's where, you know, you could see where our expectations are. We put pictures up there of our winners of our Principals 200 Club. We put pictures up of students that are on the incentive trips. You know, you see it as soon as you walk in, to try to make it as, you know, as appealing as possible. So here's the Letterman jacket. Like I said, we didn't have one. Of course, a general or a traditional high school, if you have sports teams, you have things like that, you know, you're going to have these anyway. But our kids didn't really have that sense of ownership for their school. You know, we added this. They have to have a teacher recommendation. They have to be recommended by their shop teacher. They have to meet certain academic requirements, and they have to meet certain behavioral requirements. We're at about 70% free or reduced lunch, so the cost was an issue. Cost is an issue for everything with our students, so we tried to make them as cheap as possible. We were able to reduce the cost through our director. What did they pay, Mr. Milanovich? Kids pay $150, and they can do that over 3 payments. So,
The surprising thing about the jackets, the truly surprising thing was, for us that come from regular school districts or from regular areas, you don't think that they're going to be that excited about it, but they really are. That ownership, the pride that our kids have whenever they put that jacket on is really, really impressive. And it's the kid that you imagine the least, the kid that you're like, you don't even think he likes your school. And all of a sudden, he's wearing that jacket every day, including the day before when we left, when it was 75 degrees. Shorts and his Letterman jacket. So it's proud. It's a proud moment for all of us.
okay, one of the things we did with on the academic end was we started having coffee and donut socials for high honor roll students and an ice cream social for honor roll students. Very low cost. You know, we have them on separate days. If you're a high honor roll student, you can do both. And they're during the day, so they get called down. They might get to miss 15 minutes, 20 minutes of a class after lunch or whatever. But you know, they're proud of that, and you know, other kids get to see that they're going to do it. So we have daily incentives, quarterly incentives, and then a yearly incentive that we do. Our daily incentive is our Principals 200 Club. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the idea of the Principals 200 Club, and I know it's big in elementary, but we tried to come up with how could we get the students and the staff to buy in, to give out the tickets, to make sure that they're coming down with their tickets, and you know, what could we give them that they would actually enjoy. So what we did was, you could see the tickets up top there, the yellow tickets. I give out 12 tickets a day. 3 teachers get 4 tickets. I have a list. I put them in their mailbox the night before. It is no extra work for them. They don't have to come get them. They don't have to remember when they're going to get them. I make sure they're there the night before. I sort of have a checklist. I just go alphabetically. In our case, I give 2 academic teachers. I give 1 vocational teacher the tickets every day. The students don't know who have the tickets. It could be me one day. It could be Miss Price one day. It could be Miss DeSimone. And 12 kids get tickets every day. So it's a short-term reward. At the end of the day, at our end of the day announcements, we're out at 2:40. At 2:34, our secretary comes on. She reads the expectations. She says, Principals 200 ticket recipients for today, please gather your things, report to the lobby. They come down. They pick a number out of that little blue cart, and they put their name on the corresponding block. The interesting thing with this is, with high school kids, my biggest fear with this dry erase board was that they were just going to wipe the names off every day, that they would mess it up. We've been doing it for 4 years now, and it's never been touched, luckily. Okay, knock on wood. You know, but we do. There, you can see the book there. You can see the book there. We record it in case something would happen. And then whenever there are 10 in a row, it can be 10 up and down, it can be 10 side to side, it can be 10 diagonal, that's our winners. And if you look up here, those are that is a bingo winner. Okay, those are bingo winners. So when we get to 10 in a row, we come over the announcements. Those 10 students are called down by name, and they all get one of these beautiful Milanovich bucks. Okay, you can all save that later. If you use that at the bar in the lobby, that's good for a drink. No, I'm just kidding. It's really not. So each of the 10 get a Milanovich buck, and all that Milanovich buck is good for $1 in the cafeteria. And we sign them and stamp them so they're authenticated, so nobody's producing counterfeit Milanovich bucks. So they're good for $1 in the cafeteria. Now, what they can use it for ice cream, they can use it for a bag of chips, they can use it for an extra whatever for lunch. But then out of those 10, there's one grand prize winner. And that one grand prize winner gets a little bit bigger of a prize. It can be coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. It can be lunch in our restaurant shop. It can be, when we get to the incentive trips, most of the time the kids will pick a free trip. But they're the winners. So that's how we got the student buy-in. Now, if anybody has one of these, excuse me, the rich buck, this is our administrative director, so basically like our superintendent. Whatever staff member gave the grand prize winner the ticket, that staff member gets a rich buck. So in this picture here, that young man's name's Noah. Whoever gave Noah his ticket, the staff member gets that rich buck, and that rich buck entitles them to, our students leave at 2:40, but we're contracted till 3. One day you can leave at 2:40. You can have, the school-wide team will get you coffee. You can have lunch in the restaurant. We've offered that you can park in Mr. Milanovich or Mr. Rich's parking spot for the day, but unfortunately, if you're in front of the building, then they'll know if you're late, so nobody takes us up on that one too often. So we tried to make it so the staff was getting something back from it also, and it's worked well. Were there some kinks at the beginning? Of course. Are you going to get 100% of your tickets back? Nope. Okay. Some students will say, I don't care, but 90% of them care. Some staff members, just like students, we all know who they are. They're not going to hand them out, even if you ask them to. But I believe we're at about 90% when I give them out. The staff hands them out, and we get them back. So this is our daily incentive. This is our short-term reward, and it's helped, and it's very low cost. We probably have 4 bingo winners a year. Probably six. 6 bingo winners a year. So you're looking at $60 in Milanovich bucks, and if they pick a free trip that we'll get to later, that's another $42. Question? Somebody? Yeah.
Just to make sure I'm correct, you give out 12 tickets a day.
Yes.
Like you just give it to a teacher. That teacher's responsible for giving those 12 out. And those are the only 12 given out that day.
There's 12 given out a day, so I pick 3 teachers, and they get 4 each.
Okay.
So
you're
that-
not expecting all your teachers to get it out whenever. It's just when you have tickets in your box,
Yeah.
you give out 4.
Yes. Yep. When you have the tickets, you get 4.
So the question was actually about distribution of the tickets, and that's something I was going to jump in again. Again, trying to make it as easy as possible for the staff. The team does the work. We have made it as simple as Mr. Orelli, through all this that he just explained, the whole process, that whole process is done by our team. All of those steps are done by our team. We take on that burden. All the teacher has to do is wake up in the morning, come to work, look in their mailbox, see the yellow tickets, and then simply find a kid doing something good, write the name on it, and give it to them. That's it. The rest of it is done by the team, which is also very seamless, but it's because we took on the burden and it's not more work for us. The teacher sees a kid pick up some trash. The teacher sees a kid being nice to another kid. The teacher sees a kid working harder in class than they normally do. Any positive reinforcement that they want to give, it's on them. And then they recognize that student by very simply writing their name on the ticket and handing it to them. The rest of it is done through our process. We had another question, or did we get there? Yes?
Good. Question was the size of the faculty. We have 38 academic and vocational teachers and roughly 10 instructional aides. Yeah.
Do we clean the board when a bingo is done? Yes. The board seems like it's very large, but giving out this number of tickets, it does fill up relatively quickly. However, with that being said, it's luck of the draw. I mean, it's a large board. We're trying to get 10 in a row. It does take some time to fill up, which is nice. But yes, once we do get our winner, we wipe it clean, we start all over again.
And there's it's crazy because of the luck of the draw. There's times that we'll, 3 weeks we get a winner. There's times it takes 4 or 5. There was one day I think that there was only like 10. There was like 185 names up there, and there was one spot, and in a bunch of different areas. And then I think the day that it hit, there ended up being like it hooked to so there was three separate winners. So that does happen, but most of the time, roughly 3 to 4 weeks it takes to fill, to get a bingo, to get a winner. So it's not too bad. Here's what the tickets look like. And like I said, 12 go out a day to 3 separate staff members. The ones that I know that might be a little, that maybe don't check their mailbox every day, I'll hand deliver them in the morning, okay? To make sure that, everybody's getting them. Yes, ma'am.
How big did you say the board was?
The board is 4x8, and we used black electrical tape to make 200 squares. That was probably the hardest part, was making sure that it was all, we made it. I mean,
4x8 grease board that we screwed to the wall, and then used electrical tape just to make all those beautiful grids.
Is there a reason why you hand them out to specific teachers every day rather than have it happen naturally? Like, did you have a bad experience with teachers not following?
The question was why pick out. We basically wanted to control the number of tickets that were out a day and make sure that we could, and that everybody was getting them, and that to try to, we didn't want the kids to know maybe this person had them, this person. So that was the reason. And we picked. You could do 10 tickets a day. You could do 20 tickets a day. For our size of our faculty and for our size of our student body, we thought 12 was a good number.
Also promote the buy-in from everybody. We want everybody to be involved in school-wide positive behavior, not the teachers that like kids' positive behavior.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. In the back.
This is great. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Is there also a staff winner every day, or is that just for the day?
No. Okay. The question was, is there a staff winner every day? There's only one staff winner when there's a bingo. So roughly you're looking at 6 staff winners a year. Yes, ma'am.
How do you pick the big winner?
So when they come down and get their Milanovic buck, there'll be a stamp on the back of one of them, and I tell them, turn your Milanovic buck over. If you have the stamp, you're the big winner. To try to make it as random as possible. Any more questions on the tickets or the cart? Yes, ma'am.
Like, why do you guys want to control the number of tickets? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
What? For us, we just, the question was, why do we want to control the number of tickets? You don't have to. You don't have to. We just decided to do it so. We didn't want to take up a whole bunch of time at the end of the day. So to have 12 come down, I guess we were afraid, if you have 20 or 30 kids, it would get them that day, because they have to come down, they have to get the number, they have to sign the board, just to make sure that we were able to move through it. Yeah, and cost, to try to.
So when you call this down at the end of the day, you're just making a random announcement. Anybody with a ticket come down.
Yeah.
There's no student names,
Right. Question was at the end of the day, how are they called down? Yes, it's just with our end of day announcements, the first thing she says is, ticket recipient winners for the day come down. Okay. And here's a picture of the grid. We had some questions on that before, as you could see, and you can sort of see the size of it. And we have all of our cool tools hung there. We've sort of taken, and right across the hallway is where you've seen before, where all those pictures were from the trips, and we'll get to that in a little bit too. But this is where, this is sort of, we've made this our positive behavior hallway, if you will. It's where the expectations are. When we have 10, there's the, we talked about that a little bit. That's where the Milanovic buck comes into play. They can use it in the cafeteria.
You did notice the directors are in color, right?
Yes. Yes, the director's is a much nicer picture and it's in color. His, I took the worst picture I could possibly find. Okay, and so any other questions on the Principals 200 Club before we move on? So that's our short-term incentive, that's our daily incentive. We answer everything as we went? Okay, yes, ma'am.
You can consider, because we did this in the past, we don't currently do it at our school, but once the winner was identified, or we wouldn't do just one, we would do the row, and
Yeah.
give them a pizza party or something like that, but then we would take all of the tickets and put them into another drawing, like an end of the year
That's,
drawing.
yeah.
So that the kids feel like I
St-
still earned something, or had the potential to earn something after the first bingo was won.
Yeah, and so the comment was, to keep the tickets, and we do have a bin where we keep them all, and when we get to the end of the year picnic, we actually do use them for something. So, kids have an incentive to try to get as many tickets as they possibly can. So, next thing was more long-term incentives, and this was the one we sort of wrestled with, and we're trying to come up with some different ways to get high school students to buy in, and this has worked really well for us. And so what we did was we came up with 4 quarterly field trips, and what they have to do during these quarterly field trips is they have to meet monthly expectations, okay? And the reason it's monthly is because I need to know who's eligible, who's not eligible. So we set a window, and they have to be referral free in that window. So can't have a dress code violation, can't be late, can't be, nothing. And it's a long-term reward, and we've worked with people in the community to make it as affordable as possible. And for our students, that's a big deal. For our school, that's a big deal. I'm sure, like it is for all of your schools also. We're trying to stretch dollars as much as we can. And we made sure that all of these trips are during the day. And we asked students, what do you want to do? Okay, we give them a survey. Some of the things that we have done, and this is this year's, we have about 30 minutes from us is the Youngstown Phantoms. They're a minor league hockey team. They do a school day game, starts at 10 a.m., game's over by 12:30. They let you bring boxed lunches in. It's real cheap for our kids. Tickets $7, and that's the kids pay for the trip. So the kids pay that $7. The second one we did was the movies. The movie theater opens up early for us. They open up at about 9 a.m. We get to pick 2 or 3 different movies that are showing. The kids pick what movie they want to. For $7, they get to see the movie. They get to miss school a little bit in the morning, and they get a drink and a popcorn. It's a win-win for everybody. The students get out. The movie theater, which would normally be closed that day, had 100 kids at $7 a pop. And they open up their concession stand, so they liked it too. And it helps because then they give us some gift certificates for our picnic at the end. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have to provide busing?
Yes. So basically, the question was, do we have to provide busing? And basically, what our director, the deal he made with us was, if we paid for the trips or had the students pay for the trips or fundraise for the trips, he would pick up the busing cost. So, and that's another reason why we stay local, because it's cheaper.
This is actually the hardest part. This is where the most work does go into play. You do have to have somebody in your staff or in your community that has connections. There's a reason that Mr. Arelli here refers to himself as the school-wide positive behavior czar. Okay. He used that line on his wife twice leading up to this trip because he has 4 kids at home that are with her. So the czar is appropriately named. Mr. Arelli is from the community. He lives in the community. His kids are being raised in the community. His grandparents were from the community. He knows what's out there. He knows what's around. He has built relationships with these locations. He has relationships with these owners. He has taken the time to get to know them to get to know us. This is truly a community outreach project as much as it is a school-wide positive behavior incentive. And for that reason, we're able to keep the price as low as we are. For that reason, we're able to get it in during the times that we want to. As he mentioned, it's a win-win. The bowling alley wouldn't be making any money unless we were there at that time. The movie theater wouldn't be making any money unless we showed up. So $7 a kid's a lot better than nothing. as he moves into some of the other incentives, you will see that we take on a little bit more of the burden, but we do that to reward the kids. So those relationships are very important. Knowing your own community, having somebody from your community that can facilitate these agreements is helpful. And then, as a district, in our budget, we make sure we allocate funds for incentives, and that's where we pull our money for busing.
And one thing that I forgot, I didn't mention at the beginning, these reset every quarter, every 9 weeks. So, Johnny's been a pain. He got 7 ODRs in the first 9 weeks. He wasn't able to go to the first 2 trips, but he really wants to go bowling, or he really wants to go to the Pirate game. They're eligible for the next one. They have to be, during that window is when they have to be discipline free. They have to be in the schools, they have to be in compliance with the school's attendance policy. And that is one thing, that's one thing we had to tweak. And we reached out to staff to ask staff, what do you want us to make the requirements? And one of the things was attendance. I didn't think of it the first year. I had a girl who went on all 4 trips. I think those were the only 4 days of school she came, and she was fine referral wise because she was never there. But that was one of the things that we added. So it resets every 9 weeks. It resets every quarter to try to make those kids eligible, to give them the incentive to do the right thing. I have a kid in my class right after lunch. He was probably written up 12 times at the beginning of the year. He really wants to go to the Pirate game. He paid his money. He's been an angel for the last 4 weeks. Hopefully, he continues to, and he gets to go. Question in the back.
Wondering, so how does it impact the school on that day when there's the field trip? The kids who don't get to go, are there a lot of kids, or
Okay.
classes go on?
That's a good question. Question was, what happens the days of the field trip, the days at school on the days of the field trip. We average about 100 kids that go on the trips. So that leaves about 300 back at the school. We mix up staff who go on the trips. And it just sort of operates as a regular day back in the building. One of the questions that we had, not today, but from some other presentations that we did, and even from our own staff, that's 4, and we always get that's 4 days that you're taking of instructional time. Okay, it is, yeah, it is. But we waste enough time on other things that, to show these kids, to give these kids these experiences, in our opinion, it's worth it. Okay, these are some pictures from our trip. Mr. Milanovic needed the skate mate, as you can see. We took 100 kids to the Pirate game last year. I would venture to say for 80 of them, it was the first time that they've ever been to Pittsburgh, and it's only 45 minutes away. Our kids just can't afford to go. I mean, most of them, it's their first Pirate game. We tried to make it, like I said, we try to make it as affordable as possible. Since we are so high, free and reduced lunch, I give our cafeteria their numbers for the day. They give us boxed lunches. We give it to them before they go in, some bottles of water. Try to make it as enjoyable for them as possible, and also, so they can eat while they're there, because we know how it is to go to a professional sporting event. You can't get a drink and food for $10. So the fact that we're able to bring that stuff in, is huge. The Pirate one's our big one. We also go to Mount Washington. If you can see, that's the lookout up here. If anybody's familiar with the Pittsburgh area, we leave the school at about 8:30. Go up to the lookout. They get to take some pictures, take their selfies. We go to the Pirate game, and then we come home. That one, I do have to say, we've done it for the last 2 years. We did a minor league game the first year, and the kids still loved it. But this is sort of our big one at the end. It is a little bit more expensive. We keep it at $7 for the kids, and it's about $17, so I have to make up $700 in there some way, and I'll show you in a little bit how we do that. But we mix up the staff who gets to go. We have a list that we talk about at our monthly meetings. I normally go on all of them. We bring a nurse on all of them, and then we sort of just we mix it up. As you can see up here, that's at the Pirate game. We brought our school resource officer last year to try to, it's a school-wide thing. We bring secretaries, we bring aides. We try to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to go at some point or another. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Question is, what do you do if you have a student that can't afford $7? We pay for it. I pay for it. We have. Yes, we. Yeah, we'll win a raffle. They'll win a bingo. We try to make it so they can. We have some teachers that'll say, I want to pay for these too. We make sure. If they qualify and they really want to go and they can't come up with the $7, and we all know who those students are in our buildings, we make sure that they can go.
This has nothing to do with my end-of-year survey that's coming up. We have an absolutely wonderful staff, both academic and vocational. We have a very caring staff. We are 400 kids, but they all come from small communities. They all come from family communities. So there is not a single teacher in our building that if we said, Jimmy wants to go on the trip, we know he doesn't have $7, that they won't dig in their pocket and give up that $7. We have a clothes closet that we run all year. There's not a single kid that'll go without a jacket, a sweatshirt, a new pair of pants, any of those things. So our staff is very diligent in paying attention to what our kids need. And that's the biggest question. A kid won that trip and they can't go. What do? We get them there. We get them there. Someone will always do it. We have a large, being a vocational school. Being a vocational school, we do have a large special education population. We're a little bit over 30% special ed in our building. We have 4, soon to be 5, you're welcome, special ed teachers. And they have pretty large caseloads, as you could imagine. Their kids are very economically diverse. Those special ed teachers probably spend well over a few $100s a year anyway on their kids. What's $7 more when it's time to get your kid on a trip to go to one of these fun events? We also do things amongst the staff to help raise the funds to defer the cost. We'll do a lot of baskets. We'll do a lot of donations. That is good for everybody. That money helps supplement the ticket costs. That money also helps supplement the busing costs. So basically, within your own community, you know what works, you know what doesn't work, you know what your staff will buy into, you know what they're tired of. But in addition to that, it has to be driven to change your culture as well. There's a lot of what ifs you could ask. There's a lot of how do you do that. There's a lot of how do you get them to buy in. We're all in education. I know that you all know exactly how many days you have left in your school year. I have 3 more Mondays and I don't have to see Mr. Orelli for a few more months. That attitude is normal amongst teachers and students. The attitude that shouldn't be normal is that it's a clock in, clock out kind of job. That, they tell me I start at 7:45 and I'm done at 3 o'clock. Click, done. You can't have that attitude and expect this to be successful.
Any other questions on the quarterly incentives? Yes.
So this is available for all students as long as they're not hitting the first
Yes,
ticket or
nope. It's available. So the trips are available to 100% of the students. It starts over every quarter. We average about 100. Like I said, we average about 100, and that's just because some students don't want to go, to the things that we picked. We probably have 50 that go to, they want to go to everything. And that's why we try to mix it up a little bit. We do the movies, we do the ice skating, we do the bowling, we do the sporting events. If you have any minor league teams in your community, they offer a ton of stuff like this. We have a single A affiliate about 45 minutes away, and they gave us tickets to the end of the for our end of the year picnic, vouchers. They just want to get people there. And for some of our kids, they've never been to those either. So if so there are areas in the community, there are areas where you can reach out and and they'll give you stuff if you ask. Any other questions on the incentive trips in the back?
How, so kind of going off of that, it's open to everybody. When do you schedule the trips during the year, so that you have a
Okay, so the question is, when do you schedule them? How do you know who qualifies? So basically, so our Pirate game is May 23rd. So that's been the dates. We pick those at the very beginning of the year. Those dates have been up. The students know when they are. So since the Pirate game is May 23rd, I set the window of the incentive window as April 5th to May 5th. So they had from April 5th to May 5th, they couldn't have any referrals. I'll check the list after May 5th. I checked all the discipline referrals for that month. I cross-reference it with the list of students who signed up to go. If little Mike signed up to go and he was suspended in that window, he gets his $7 back, and you know, the next person's up.
So they sign up ahead of time?
Yes.
And then if they don't,
Right. They sign up ahead of time. If they don't meet the requirements, we refund the money, or you know, for some of them, for the ice skating, for the bowling, for the movies, we could take, if all 400 kids were eligible and 400 kids wanted to go, we could take them. Pirate game, of course, is a little different. I bought 100 tickets. We bought 100 tickets to start, and we tell them it's 100 tickets, first come, first serve. Then we'll have a waiting list. If we get 20 or 30 more that would want to go, we could add on. The Pirates sort of keep a block open for us, but we try to give ourselves enough wiggle room time-wise, so I know exactly, and to let the teachers know, okay, this is the 100 kids that are going, so they can plan, so they can plan their day. Any other questions on the trips? Yes. Attendance requirement, they have to be in compliance with our attendance policy. So for us, it's since we're an A week and B week school, you can miss 3 days in A week classes, 3 days in B week classes for each 9 weeks. After that, you fail. So if you're not in compliance with the attendance policy, you can't go.
The nice thing about that's actually a great question. So a lot of the stuff can be tied directly back to what you already have established. Everybody has a student handbook. Everybody has their expectations. So if there's something that was specific to your school district that you needed to try to help to improve, you can look to your handbook. You know, it doesn't have to be what we do. It shouldn't be what we do. It should be what you do. So for us, the teachers wanted attendance. Well, the solution's already there. If you miss 3 days, on the fourth day, on the fourth day that a kid is absent at our school, illegal absence, they fail for the 9 weeks. We're a vocational school. Go to work or get fired. So that seems strict, but that's what's in place. So if they miss that fourth day, not only do they fail the 9 weeks, but they also don't go on the incentive trip. If they're late to school, after their third late to school, they're going to get a discipline referral. Again, they're off the list because they received a discipline referral. So those things kind of work themselves out systematically through what you already do anyway.
And with the attendance, if they miss 4 days, they fail, but that's 4 out of 22, because they're out of 45 days, they're only in academics for 22 and they're in their shop for 23. So, it's really, so it's half the days anyway. But moving on, because we're getting short on time here. So our big one, and somebody mentioned, for the end of the year picnic. It's our long-term reward. This is for students who they met a yearly expectation. They went all year with 0 referrals. So they didn't get written up for anything. No dress codes, no lates, no fights, no disrespect, no insubordination, nothing. And we do this at the end of the year. We feed them, we have games. You can see that's our school resource officer in the dunk tank. Mr. Milanovic got in the dunk tank, I got in the dunk tank.
Totally hit the button.
Yes, he hit the button. And we put cornhole boards out, we have music, we go through our cafeteria so it doesn't cost us anything to feed them. And last year, out of our 400 students that go to the CTC, 254 were eligible to come to the picnic. So that's 254 students, and that just shows we think sometimes, our kids are so bad they're doing the wrong thing. Most of them aren't. Most of them are doing what we want them to do. So this is our way to say thank you to them. And we do it we have 2 lunch periods. We do it during both lunches. I open up the doors in the cafeteria so the ones that aren't eligible, that are still eating cafeteria food, can watch the other ones have fun and enjoy themselves. Yeah. And we put staff at the doors to make sure, that they're not that those ones aren't coming out. We have hot dogs. You see here these students there. We put out an email to teachers. I contact the people in the community, and we ask for gift cards. And out of those 250 students, we had 40 gift cards that we passed out. Some of them are $5 gift cards, some of them are $10 gift cards. And then we have one grand prize winner. And back to the ticket where we put all the tickets in, we pick one grand prize winner, and it's this young lady right here, and she won an iPad mini. We try to make it a big deal. We try to make it, as nice for them as possible. We've been lucky, knock on wood, the last 4 years the weather's been nice. They do Frisbee. We did a Wounded Warrior fundraiser during the picnic that they got to smash a car for $1. So we try to make it as nice as possible. And we ask the students what they want. They wanted the dunk tank again this year, so we're getting the dunk tank again. If anybody gets a dunk tank and you ask our secretary, bless her heart, but she thought, she brought the local fire, our Newcastle Fire Department came and filled it up for us. The water is the most disgusting water you'll ever see in your life. Don't do that, okay? We had to drain it and put new water in. That's actually the clean water. You couldn't see into the other water. Wasn't a pretty sight, okay? But the kids enjoy it. We invite all staff to come. Another way to get staff buy-in, come down and eat. The kids like to see the staff there. The kids like to see, Mr. Milanovic throwing the balls at the dunk tank. I'll be playing cornhole with students. We try to let them sort of control them. What's that? Cornhole? Oh, it's the beanbag game. Question, what is cornhole? It's the beanbag game where you throw the stuff. But you can play any games that you want. So,
with the expansion of technology and Google and all those things, cornhole is not the vernacular used for the game anymore for a specific reason. It is bags.
So, what are our results? How has this worked? Does it work? So, at the high school, 2016, 2017, we had 1,404 ODRs, Office Discipline Referrals. After that was the next year was the first year that we did the quarterly incentives, that we did the long-term yearly picnic. We went down to 851 Office Discipline Referrals. Right now, we're projecting at 825 for this year. If you look down here at the bottom, as of April's data, we had 645 referrals. Out of those 645, 431 were dress codes and tardies. So those aren't major, those aren't your major referrals. So it's definitely changed our school climate. It's definitely changed what we're doing on a daily basis. Students have bought in, staff has bought in. A lot of times when we ask kids, we had our senior exit interviews. What was your favorite thing about coming here? They're all going to say their shop first because that's where they're going to go make their money. The second thing is normally, was going on the trips. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. From what I'm hearing, what it sounds like is you continue doing discipline as you normally do, and then just PBIS was meant as a complement to that. You see as that's brought down. Some of the other trainings we're in sound like they changed their discipline in addition to implementing PBIS, but did you keep it the same and you just added these incentives?
Question was, did we keep our discipline the same or did we change it? We kept it the same. We kept our handbook the same. There's still the same expectations. I think a big misconception, and I'll admit that I had when this was first rolled out, was the fact that you're going to give a kid a cookie or a star or anything for doing the right thing. we're recognizing the kids who are doing things right. The kids who are doing things wrong are still getting their punishment. We're using this as a supplement. We're using this as a supplement to try to get kids to make better decisions and to, reward the kids that are making the right decisions.
So again, as I referenced, all districts can implement this by using what they already have in place. That question actually hits the nail on the head. We have not changed one thing in our discipline. Our handbook has not changed. Our student handbook hasn't changed. Our teacher handbook hasn't changed. Raise your hand if you've read your teacher handbook lately. Raise your hand if you know what's in the student handbook. Okay. Now ask your kids, how many of you have read your student handbook? How many of their parents have read the student handbook? How many kids sign the form that comes back that says my parent read the student handbook? What this does is this is a positive way to reinforce and refresh all our community in what our expectations already are. We didn't change any, we just promote them more now. Our attendance policy is more out there and in their face because it's part of whether or not they get to go on the trip. Our behavioral expectations are more out there and revisited more often because it's part of they get to go on the trip. As hard as it is to believe, it's tough doing things at the high school level. I will have a kid who was late to school again, or I'll have a kid who had one more unexcused absence, and they come in my office and they're actually begging to do something else other than get the write-up because they really want to go on that trip. That's positive. So now, where I get in trouble by the teachers is I got a big heart. I find something else for this kid to do because they did it the right way. We want to promote positive behavior, but we also want to promote mutual respect. So if a kid's going to come into my office and he's going to talk to me in a respectful manner such as that, I'm going to respect them back. And we try to do that, and that's what perpetuates our already established criteria.
Yes.
Could you please go over the requirements for the end of the year picnic?
Yes, question was the requirements for the end of the year picnic. They have to have 0 referrals for the entire year. They have to have 0 referrals for the entire year, and they also have to be in compliance with the attendance policy for the entire year, but most of the time that would sort of cancel each other out because if they were tardy that many times or missed that many times, they would have got a referral anyway. So, and then I'm getting ready to wrap up here, but one of the big things is funding. Okay, community partnership. We ask for donations. I'm always asking, writing letters, calling. Another big thing that we did, and if you look at your local, the Youngstown Phantoms who we've partnered with, they do a dash for cash. That is me there making a fool out of myself. They basically dropped 3,500 $1 bills on that green carpet, and you could shove them wherever you could shove them. And I got about $800 that night, and that went to offset the pirate trip. So we find things like that. Another thing that we whispered earlier, it may be illegal, but we do a 50-50 every 2 weeks. We bring in after hours, of course. So that's like every 2 weeks. That's $150 a staff member's getting, and that goes into our. You're not asking them to buy candles. You're not asking them to buy a sub. They're buying $5 worth of tickets. They have a chance to win the cash. I mean, it's effective. And like I said, the school pays for busing, and we try to keep it at $7, keep it as low as possible. Any questions? I know that's a lot. Yes, ma'am.
Just about your grand prize winner. So you take all the kids that got their tickets in, but then you take out all the ones that have maybe missed out, right?
Yeah.
You can't have any.
Right. To be at that end of the year picnic, right? You can't have any
What
referral.
about kids that had no referrals but never got a ticket, if that happens?
It's a good question. I don't think that that's a very good, I don't know that we've had that. It make me rethink everything, but we actually do. That's something to think about.
Okay.
Yes. Real quick, as we're wrapping up, and we will take any more questions, please flip over on the back of your Milanovic buck or Rich buck. If you have a sticker Who has a sticker? Anybody? You got a sticker?
Come on up.
If you got.
Nobody else? Number 2, that somebody snuck out.
There you go. There's a gift card that you can use at the anywhere you'd like for $25. Any other sticker on the back of your Milanovic buck?
So what you just witnessed was positive reinforcement towards a more adult mind. We got a beautiful grown woman who just got a gift card and she couldn't be happier. Whatever's local in your community. For us, in what we like to call Pennsyltucky, what we have is sheets. You all have one. Your kids love it. You got a Wawa. Our kids love sheets. So the majority of those gift cards that we go and get, we'll get 20 of them are sheets cards and they're just happy as could be.
The other sticker should be on the back of a rich buck. So if you have a rich buck, nobody? Any gold star? No gold star sticker on the back of your rich buck? See, somebody left. So if you see somebody that has a rich buck, but are there any other questions? Any other questions for us? I will put, the next slide is, that's my contact information. If you want to take a picture of that, if you have any questions, we've had about 6 or 7 schools come out this year and show them what we're doing. If you're more than welcome, if you have any questions as you're implementing.
Have you ever tied any academic standards to it? And if not, are teachers disappointed if they have students who are failing their course but are rewarded for it?
Question was, have we tied any academic standards? We haven't yet. We've tied academic standards to the Letterman jackets, to the ice cream socials, to the donuts and coffee, but we haven't done it with the incentive.
So those questions bring up the important thing. That it is a living, breathing document that you need to tailor for your school. Living, breathing document, like Mr. Orelli's lesson plans that change every couple months. You tailor to what you see your needs are. You tailor to what you see your school needs to improve in, what your students need to improve in, sometimes even what your staff needs to improve in. You get to use this as an avenue to take a look at yourself, take a look at what you've tried, what's worked, what hasn't, celebrate your successes, choose which of those successes you want to focus on and you want to celebrate, all while having a strong team that does the burden of the work that, quite honestly, isn't a lot of work. It is not a lot of work. It's easy for your staff, which helps with the buy-in. You don't get it instantly, but it does happen over just a short period of time. This is only our 3rd year really pushing this hard, and it's seamless. We have no problems in our building. The kids know what the expectations are. The kids know what our ideals are in the building. They know what's required to go on the trips. It has become a part of our culture and our climate, which is what we hope to achieve. And it all ties back into, we didn't have to create anything new. We made a 4x8 grease board that we put black tape on. We ran off beautiful, beautiful tickets. We ran off yellow tickets. All things that are done in-house by just a few hands that are willing to put in the extra work. So you get to tailor it however you want. You use what you already have in place. This is not, when we say Principals 200 Club, Mr. Relly said at the beginning, everybody's heard of Principals 200 Club. You just call it something else. In my daughter's school, they call it the Warrior Way. It's the same premise. It's just how you tailor it to meet what needs you have in your building.
Any other questions? No other questions? Well, listen, we thank you. We didn't. Do you have the code for them? She'll give you the code. We didn't know if we'd get anybody at this late session. We thought maybe people would be out to dinner already, but thank you for coming. Here's the code.